Hey everybody, Eric Schweitzer here for The Gamer. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite game. Joined by my beautiful co-host, Dawn of the Final Day, George Foster.
Hello, and then time loop. Hello, get it?
And warning, Helios abandoned Stacey Hemley.
Hello.
We're here for time loops. We're doing the time warp.
Again.
George, sing it.
Do that. No, I won't. You can't
Oh
force
man,
me.
I love a good time loop. I love a time loop. And this was one of the hardest ones for me to pick just one.
Yeah.
I love so many of these games.
I think that was the opposite problem.
Really?
We'll discover that. I've gone a bit
Bad
cheeky
taste,
with
George
the
strikes again.
definition.
I
Of
didn't
course you
necessarily
have.
struggle, but as I listed mine, I knew there were ones that Eric loved. So I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
Eric is
there's-
going to struggle to pick some of these.
I think I've got my pick for both of you, like in my head already. Neither of
know.
you know mine because it's going to be a bit cheeky with it, but we'll get there.
I just this is definitely an episode I picked just for me. Though I know both of you like some time loop stuff. I always think about like what's interesting about our topics, what makes this topic special, and I was just kind of thinking back to all of those many opinion pieces I read during the pandemic about how resonant time loop games are.
Yeah.
Remember that? Remember
Yeah.
that time?
Unprecedented time, I believe it was called.
I think it is interesting because I think it's kind of misses a bigger point in that it's not that time loop games are perfect for the pandemic because everything felt like the same all the time, but rather I would argue that time loop games resonate with us because that's how our entire lives are.
Yeah.
You wake up, you go to work, you get off at 5, you get home, you make I mean, like, I started this show with the same intro that I start every show with. Like, it didn't have to be a lockdown for us to all feel like our lives are just one long repeated day over and over. And I think that the time loop fantasy is that you get to break out of it.
You break the
at
cycle,
end.
yeah. Every single
Yeah.
time loop game that I list that I've kind of got to speak about, they're all about breaking, escaping, or changing the cycle, and not
Yes.
just about experiencing that loop over and over again and seeing the different versions of your life. It's not like a kind of Groundhog Day. Let's do something wacky each day. I know that you just break the loop at the end of Groundhog Day, but it's not about enjoying doing the same thing over again. It's about trying to avoid that as best you can.
Yeah, the loop is torture, right? And and at the end you escape it. There's no time loop story ends with just and then the time loop continued.
Yeah.
Right? And our only escape is the sweet release of death. But in fiction we get to pretend that there's something on the other side worth escaping the loop for. So that's fun.
Yeah, this is all very fun. Not throwing me for a loop at all. This is great. No existential crisis here.
Life is a Sisyphean's suffering. Is a word for you.
Yeah,
Video games.
It's all just rolling the boulder up the hill over and over again.
Which itself is a game now.
Yes.
Not a time loop game, but a game
I
nonetheless.
forget what it's called, but yes.
Also, I just love a detective story. And I think some of the best time loop games, some of the ones we're going to talk about, are fantastic detective stories. Stacey's looks
Is yours
coy
a
all of
detective
sudden.
story?
I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm going to hear both of yours and then choose mine.
Okay.
You would, yeah, it doesn't matter. Even if I had no input, it would not matter. Mine is so off cuff, but I think I have a reason for it.
I've got four I could choose at this moment.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's totally my thing. But I think we'll dive into it, George. I'm so curious what your cutesy little offbeat time loop game. Are you just gonna name a generic roguelike and say it's a time loop game? Because I want to talk about that.
Yeah, it's a yes.
No,
Big old
yes and no. So, my favorite game with a time loop is Spelunky,
Yeah.
which is also my favorite roguelite. And the reason I settled on that, there's I've got a list, and I looked through it. I was like, yeah, I could talk about Deathloop. I know neither of you are going to say Deathloop. If you do, then
I wasn't planning on it.
Exactly. And I could talk about Deathloop and say, hey, the story's cool. I like the way it does a time loop. But my mind kind of settled then on a roguelite, and it's like the loop is the whole part of that, right? But most of them, so then you'd think Hades. That's what came to my mind. Like, oh,
Mhm.
Hades, does that count? I'm like, no, because Hades has a continuous
It's
story.
a progressive narrative.
Yeah, it's progressing. Like, Zagreus is coming back. He's not necessarily repeating the same scenario. He's just coming back to life. And then my
Interesting.
mind kind of settled on Spelunky, and I'm like, well, Spelunky doesn't have a story. Like, it doesn't have any kind of narrative thread to it. Like, you are just repeating the same thing over and over again. And I decided that I was comfortable with that being the time loop, because there's no narrative telling you that it's like you don't.
Mm.
It doesn't matter if you're reviving. It doesn't matter if you're going back in time. It's just specifically a loop. And I'm wondering how controversial that is, because I've been
Yeah, we
stressing
can.
about
Well,
it.
first of all, Secret Level establishes Spelunky as a time loop.
Yeah, well, see, I don't know. Secret Level, I thought about that as well, because I remember we've chatted about it. That still, to me, felt more like a resurrection. Like, are we counting resurrections? Do you think that?
I wouldn't
You
count
think
a
that
resurrection
counts?
as a time loop. I think that is a different mechanic.
Hmm.
Zagreus is resurrected every time.
Yeah.
The story continues in one straight line.
I guess Spelunky, it's more like you are trying again. The defining thing for me was like, if you're experiencing, as you are in a roguelike, a changing world, is that a time loop? If you're going, like, say the levels, each time they change, you encounter different stuff. Does that count? Because you're still doing the same stuff. So I guess my answer is more of a discussion point than it is a definitive answer. But I think that counts. I think I was comfortable with that. I was like, you know what? And then the reason why is just because Spelunky is the best roguelike game like ever made. Perfect game. 10 out of 10, no notes.
Yeah.
The way you learn in that game, the way you have to, the process of repeating isn't just, oh, I need to reach the end. It's, oh, okay, so I need to learn how this mechanic works on this mechanic. And by the end of it, you are a master of every scenario. Like, no other game to this day that I've played has kind of got that level of learning and executing.
So, okay, let's get into this. Any game can be a time loop game when you just play it again, right?
Okay.
A roguelike is just a game that you start over. That's sort of built into the gameplay
Yeah.
experience, the loop.
Mhm.
It's a game that you start over. But you can play Kingdom Hearts as many times as you want, and I'm sure that you have, George. But that doesn't make it a time loop game. Because I thought about this a lot too. And there are some roguelikes that do build a time loop into the narrative of the game. But I think that's an important distinction. Is it built into the narrative of the game? Because I think ultimately time loop is a narrative conceit that mechanics are often built around.
Yeah.
But if it's not, if the time loop is not part of the story, then it can't be a time loop game. I think.
See, this is what I mean. Like, I've been thinking about it all day. I've been so excited to talk about it and hear what you two thought, because I agree with that. But in Spelunky's case, there's not really. I mean, I guess Secret Level kind of establishes it as a time loop. There's not really an explanation for it beyond the cave you're in has some wacky power to make you repeat this thing over and over again. So I guess it's kind of up to you to decide that.
Spelunky is a true roguelike. There is no permanent progression, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you can get shortcuts, but that's a ball ache.
Oh, you can get shortcuts. Well, that complicates.
Is that discounting me? Then no, you can't get shortcuts.
Do you get? It's been a while since I played. Do you get shortcuts, or do you, as a player, not just learn where they are?
You can unlock shortcuts. Yeah, you have
unlock them. Oh,
you can
okay,
bring
right.
stuff to a person, but let's pretend that person has time loopy powers. Let's make this argument work for me, please. Otherwise, it's Deathloop, and like I've said what I said, Deathloop's good, I guess. There's my answer.
I mean, we're going to talk about a roguelike that is distinctly a time loop game, and I think
Okay, I know what's on your list.
I think its existence, like informs us that Spelunky is not a time loop game.
No. Spelunky
Dead
counts.
Cells is not a time loop game. Like.
I mean, at a certain point, you bring in every game, because
yes, that's what I'm saying.
Let's take a game that's not in no way, shape, or form a time loop. It's a linear game. Let's say Uncharted, just because it's probably the most linear cinematic game that I can think of. when you die, you start again. You don't go right back to the start of the game. It's not a roguelike. But, Nathan goes into a room, he gets shot. There's a game over screen, and then he starts again. That's not a time loop. Even though you as a player are doing it again, it's not a loop. To be honest, when you said you had a cheeky one, I thought you were going to go for like a time reversal thing, like Prince of Persia.
Prince of
I
Persia.
did
yeah.
almost say
Canonically, a
Prince of
time
Persia.
looping because you fall. It's not like Sands of Time. My favorite. So
Yeah,
go with that. You slip down the wall. You empty the Sands of Time, and then you're not down the wall. You, as a character, experience that death, that fall, that failure, and you learn from it.
Okay, I choose.
and-
That's my
and the-
answer.
The
difference-
What Stay said.
The difference between dying in an Uncharted and restarting at a checkpoint and dying in Prince of Persia and restarting at a checkpoint is the narrative conceit that it's a time loop in Prince of Persia and it's not in Uncharted.
Well, I'm still not changing my answer because
Already said you've
I've
changed
argued,
it twice.
No. But deep down, I'm not because I've argued fervently about it.
Yeah, it's a good topic, and it's something I thought about a lot too when I was putting the list together. Like, how many roguelikes count as a time loop?
Yeah.
And at a certain point, it's like, is this just a game that you restart? Because that could be any game.
I mean, you do escape at the end of Spelunky. That would imply that there's a, it's not just. I guess you do in Hades as well.
Hades definitely is not a time loop.
Hades definitely doesn't count. No,
it's not doesn't count. It's not a time loop. When he dies, he's resurrected. Everyone responds. Everyone else around knows that he's died several times. When you fight Megara, she knows that you fought her before. It's when sometimes you unlock the other sister, because you've died to Megara too many times, you've beaten Megara too many times. Zagreus is experiencing one continuous journey. It's just that when he dies, he becomes a little bit stronger if you've got God mode on, and it's not called the Pool of Resurrection, but he returns to the Pool of Resurrection, and he goes on. And actually, spoilers for a 5-year-old game, you need to fully beat Hades 10 times to actually beat it. Like, once you beat... I was going to say what's the name of the final boss. Obviously, it's Hades. Once you beat Hades 10 times, you get to explore... I think it's 10. You get to explore beyond Hades because it's a progressive story that goes all the way through. It requires the main character going back to the start and failing, but that character is always aware that they have failed and they aren't living the same day over and over. If there was a calendar in hell, it would be a new day every time he failed. It's not the same day that he's reliving. I don't know enough about, but this I don't know secret level. I don't really know what he's a tournament when you bring that in. I just know base, normal Spelunky.
You know secret level.
The Amazon
show.
Anthology thing.
I thought this was like a documentary. I didn't watch that. I kind of gave up on a lot of them.
Yeah.
You didn't miss too much.
I watched the Pac-Man one.
In Secret Level, the Amazon show, there's a Spelunky level, and the plot is that this character is in a time loop.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
But that's not actually in the game.
No, in the game, it's kind of, the more I thought about it, where it's like, there's not enough plot to be like, oh, there's characters who recognize you've come back and done it again. Hades, but I'm stuck on it now. I'm still choosing it.
I guess I agree with Eric that a time loop is a very specifically narrative idea. Obviously, it has to be mechanical. It physically has to exist. You have to loop in time. But I mean, you can pick what you want. It's kind of the point of this show, that we all bring different things to the table. But when I was looking at mine, I was looking at ones where I felt doing the same thing over and over again, or doing the loop, informed the way I was being told the story. Not just this is a mechanic. This is a game that I like with a mechanic that fits the bill.
I've ran the same raids in Destiny 2 hundreds of times. Right?
Sounds like a time loop to me.
Same narrative every time. I'm killing the same boss at the end every time, right? I've played thousands of Overwatch matches or Apex Legends that are all the same, all of our games are just the same thing over and over. Anything that's got a grind. I've killed 1 billion of the same monster in Monster Hunter, gods that there's only supposed to be one of, right?
Yeah.
Like
so Brainiac and Suicide Squad.
Oh god.
So yeah, we do have to narrow the definition of the time loop, and I think it has to be the narrative element. That's where I'm at. But if
I think I
Spelunky's a
agree.
time loop game to you, oh, you agree?
Yeah,
All right.
I
Well, then
agree.
never
I
mind.
agree. In which case, like I said, I guess Deathloop. Fine, I guess it's pretty
All
good.
right, you had
The thing
yours.
is,
We'll circle back to Deathloop.
there is a fantastic choice that is on all of our minds, but I don't want to choose it because I know it's Eric's turf. So when Eric reveals that that's the one he wants
I
to
don't
talk
know
about,
which one Eric's going to pick.
I better pick the right one.
Yeah, well, I hope you do because
I don't know what
Eric's
Eric's going to pick.
But then I'll be like, actually, that was my real answer. I was just playing around a bit, having a goof. Anyway, someone else goof around.
All right, Stacey. What's your favorite time loop game that's actually a time loop?
My favorite time loop game that is actually a time loop is The Forgotten City.
God damn it! Okay, that was my answer.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I really thought Eric would talk about that.
I was torn between a couple. I won't get to because I know Eric also likes the other game I was on. I want to talk about mine. But The Forgotten City, for anyone who's not familiar, started out as a mod for Skyrim. Was remade into a full game where the changed bits around. It's not really like Skyrim anymore. You are in the modern day. You go rowing down a river and you end up in ancient Rome. When you arrive at ancient Rome, you are told there is a golden rule. Very simple. Don't do anything wrong. And you are told if you do anything wrong, or if indeed anyone in the city, in the Forgotten City, does anything wrong, the world will end.
It's so good. It's so good.
As you go through the game, the first stages, you kind of don't really know what to make of any of it. And sometimes people will tell you things that they have done where it kind of seems like they've broke the golden rule.
Yeah.
They've done wrong things. So you're not really sure whether it's true. But then either you witness someone doing something that's actually wrong, or you do. I think you can steal from people, you can lie, you do something that's a cardinal sin, and the world does end. Mm-hmm. There's an apocalypse, falls in itself, and you start.
All the statues come alive and start killing people.
Yes, you hear the statues whispering all through the game, but no one else can. That's like one of the main mechanical things. Everything that you kind of have on your person when the world ends, you can keep. So that's kind of part of it. Sometimes you'll need to steal a bow, and then the world will end. But then when you start the time again, you'll have a bow, and that's necessary for you to continue. I really like The Forgotten City because it plays so well with the idea of a time loop. Because when you first get there and people tell you this golden rule, you don't really believe it. But as soon as you see it, certainly once you see it happen 2 or 3 times, you are aware there is a tipping point in every reality where something will happen and the world will implode. But nobody else remembers that this is looped. In fact, it probably hasn't looped for them even. They don't really understand how this is happening. They have no knowledge of any of the loop stuff. So when they start kind of doing things, they start to doubt whether the golden rule exists. You know as a player that it does exist and things will happen. So you have to kind of negotiate that that existence and think there's an invader in town. There are kind of ways to stop that invader. There's a lot of themes of like religion and how that comes into. Obviously, the Roman society was very built around gods that we no longer worship, but they are still concepts that we are uniquely aware of. We still understand that there is a kind of deification of beauty, of war, of power, of wealth. So what the golden rule, I guess, represents is not necessarily doing something wrong or even moral. It's the law. And the reason I like The Forgotten City so much is the time loop is used to establish and question how and why laws and morals change down not just the centuries, but just days and weeks as different things happen in our lives and how we kind of feel differently about whether following the law is doing the right thing, etc. And because there's a time loop narrative, you get to see the consequences of failure quite graphically. And it feels quite oppressive to see this kind of playing out in front of you. So, the puzzles are interesting as you go through. The characters are really engaging. The moral dilemmas are not always, do you want to be a good guy or do you want to be a bad person but get a reward? They have real weight to them. But specifically, I guess, for this topic, I like the way that you get to watch this society develop through changes, the society itself, is unaware are being made, because you are gently shifting things to stop people from being adulterous, or stop people from stealing, or make sure that there's a certain accident that happens when an invader comes to town, so that they don't steal and they don't destroy the golden rule. You kill them, but you kill them without killing them, because if you kill them, then you have broken the golden rule. So it's really layered and clever in a way that I think time loop games don't always establish. We're probably at some point going to bring up 12 minutes. I think that's a really cheap way of doing a time loop, because it's just one story that you learn in stages without even the kind of shock value stuff. I think the way you learn the things in 12 minutes are really like, this wouldn't exist if I wasn't playing a time loop game. They're very trite. The Forgotten City is not like that. It feels like you could play this without it being a time loop, and it would still be a real immersive, engaging world. And it was the Gamers Game of the Year back in 2021. First year, I think, that we did a actual site Game of the Year instead of individual editors. It was our Game of the Year.
I just want to say that everything Stace said, that's my answer.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Stace literally copied my name.
In that case, I changed my answer to Deathloop.
Yeah, the Forgotten City, it's brilliant. It's working on so many levels. The sort of, I think the key to what Stacy just described is the philosophical dialogue that's at the heart of the Forgotten City. It's a really interesting exploration of this like intersection between morals and sociology, between sociology and culture, this sort of like the distinction between morals and mores, right? Like what a society believes is right and wrong versus what God believes is right and wrong. And I think it does such a cool job of sort of breaking down complex ethical ideas in like a experiential way. And then as a time loop game, it does a lot of clever things to solve tedium, right?
Yes.
I mean, some of it is really on the nose, but you can't help but be charmed by it. When you start each loop, there's a character, Galerius?
Something like that, yeah.
It's been too long, yeah.
And you step into the city, Galerius is standing there, and you catch Galerius up on everything you know and send him off to do tasks you've already done.
Yeah.
And then he
about that. Oh my god.
And then he runs around the city doing all the shit you already did so you don't have to do it again. Which is great. And it's played as a joke, right? But
yeah.
But it's a really successful way of like keeping the plot moving without ever letting it drag you down, because this game goes to so many different places. The city is sprawling in a way. I mean,
really
it's
layered, yeah, like geographically layered, yeah.
Yeah. And so like your runs are not ever just like walking between the same two buildings over and over. You know, you're like really going different places in this and getting different pieces of the story and meeting different characters. So just the construction of a time loop game is so great, and the ending, when it becomes literally a philosophical dialogue with God, is just so compelling. I just like will never I'll never forget it. I'll never stop thinking about it. It's such a deep, fascinating game.
Yeah, really just phenomenal experience. I think the one thing that I hadn't really realized until you started mentioning kind of the actual gameplay of it there. When we were talking about Georgia, obviously Spelunky is like a puzzle, if you like, platforming roguelike. You know, it's about trying, survive. Hades is very combat based. You get stronger or you get better at fighting. Forgotten City is not really either of those things. There are some puzzles. There's not really combat in the sense of attacking combat, but there's violent scenarios you have to deal with.
Yeah.
But it's more of you get better at understanding the world. It's a roguelike way. Doing the same thing over and over again helps you understand just what the story is, and it manages to make that interesting. It's not not going to say reliant on combat as if Hades is some really lazy game. Obviously Hades is kind of phenomenal the way that it does that kind of repeated gameplay. But the Forgotten City isn't about you will die in this game and get better at it, and that's fun. It's more about you will experience more of the world, and it will move you. You will be engaged by it. You will understand it in a way that makes you want to keep going, rather than it gets harder, and that's what makes video games great. And I think that's a really interesting approach to the roguelike genre.
Well,
I think that's a really good point, Stace, there, because I remember when Eric first recommended this to me. I played it after the Game of the Year article was out, but I remember you messaging me, Eric, you have to play this. It's not even long, just give it a go. I remember looking at it, I was like, it just looks like a boring walking simulator. Why would I want to do this? But the way it engages you with that time loop mechanic, even though you are just mostly walking around interacting with stuff, I think occasionally, I don't know if you kill little bugs or small creatures or anything. I can't remember that.
There's a whole sequence with the golden bow where you're shooting people and turning them into statues.
Yes, I remember that. And just the way it drags you in, even though there's not so much gameplay to it. There is, obviously, but not in the same way that Spelunky appeals to me, which is all gameplay.
No, absolutely.
But yeah, the Forgotten City, incredible.
Yeah, it also the loop is part of the progression too, because like Hades, you could just one shot Hades. If you were a god gamer, you could do it in one run and only ever one run, right?
Yeah.
Or Spelunky, or but this game, it requires you to learn things by looping. You could not. There is an end. Of course, there is an ending where you just walk up and shoot the villain of the game and end it. But to actually get the full, the true ending or whatever, to fully experience the game, loops are required. It is not possible to one shot this game, and that's because there's so much progression built into the loops themselves. So it's not a mechanic of convenience in any way, right? The loop is essential to the story it's telling.
Yeah, I think that brings us back to the debate we had about Spelunky. The loop is the game. It's not just in the game; it is the game.
Yeah, I'm glad you played it on my recommendation, George. How's it going with mouthwashing?
I started it. Other
you
things
started it. It's 90 minutes long.
You started it?
I started it a little drunk, okay, and I was like,
I didn't know it was possible to start that game and not finish it.
I will. I'll get there. Just stop hounding me, okay? It's not to feel like a time loop in here. Jesus.
Okay, now that I've taken one off the table, Eric, made a choice. Maybe a little bit easier. What is your favorite game with a time loop?
Well, Stacey kind of spoiled it, because my favorite game with a time loop is 12 minutes. No, I'm kidding. That's the worst game ever.
We should talk about it, though.
Well, really a toss-up here. We're going to talk about two games. We're going to talk about a lot more games. My favorite game with a time loop in this particular moment is called Returnal.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh,
Had that locked in.
I can't remember if I have gotten a chance to gush about Returnal on the show. I know we did an episode where Stacey was confused why I didn't mention Returnal. I do recall that. We got to 59 minutes and 59 seconds, and Stacey said, "What about Returnal?" And I was like, "Oh no!"
I can't remember which one that was. I'm certain you've talked about it. I'm certain it's been nominated for something. I like hearing you gush about it anyway.
Yeah. What a game. Okay, so this is a roguelike that is a true time loop game. When the main character dies and restarts at the beginning, she retains her memories, and there are permanent changes to the world. So narratively, it's a time loop game, but it's much deeper than that. There's a reason she's in this time loop that you discover as you progress through the game. That is so awesome, so smart, and so not something I want to spoil for anyone who hasn't played this game. I know there was a turnoff factor here, because it was you couldn't save your runs, and the runs were really long, and it's really
Yeah.
hard. It's like a bullet hell thing. You can save your runs now, like they did change that.
Cowards.
Um, yeah, and I think people stayed away from it because like hard games are hard. And I don't think this is necessarily that unforgiving. I'm not a big hard game guy. I don't play
Mm.
Dark Souls stuff. I don't like that sort of masochistic, like, I'm gonna push through this, but I found it so worth it
Mm.
for Returnal. Um, so rewarding in a way I haven't felt when people say that about Dark Souls. It's like, oh, when you finally beat the boss. And I just think Returnal does it better because it's not just when you finally beat the boss, but it's the catharsis of the character's journey, your connection to the character and what they experience, which is not something you get in Dark Souls or
No.
any of these really super punishing games. But that, I think, is what puts Returnal on another level. And yeah, so like I'm talking around what Returnal's about, but that's kind of the point.
Yeah, I think the Greek mythology of it and the kind of the artifacts you discover along the way tell the story. But you're right, you want people to kind of experience it as a player as
Yeah.
opposed to it's harder than the Forgotten City, I think, to set up
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
And I think the way it unfolds is really smart because your first run, you're an astronaut, your spaceship crashes on a alien planet. You have just a pistol and you're going out to explore and see if you can find a way to fix your ship or find a way to escape this planet. And almost immediately you find a dead body and it's you.
Yeah.
And this is a pretty familiar setup, even if you can't like name the specific like movie or book or whatever that you've seen this before. It has this feeling of like, I know where this is going, right?
Mm.
And so like maybe you die right after that and you restart and you realize how this time loop works, and there's different versions of you and you've been through this before. But then very quickly you're exploring this alien planet and you find your character's house from Earth on this planet. And it's like, okay, there's way more going on here than I thought there was. And the game just keeps doing that for 20 hours, right? Like it's just like it it's subverting your expectations about what a time loop game is by constantly telling you, no, there's actually more to this than you expect. And it really carries you through the hard parts.
Do you think it starts as well? What before George nitpicks that
He's in
Returnal is not a
agony
time
over
loop
here.
game, so somehow, do you think the fact that it's a roguelite is what put people off? Because in Dark Souls, once you beat the boss, they're beaten, they're done, it's
Yeah.
over. And also, we're describing it saying we can't really say much about it, but it's really cool, and you want to get through it and you need to experience it. I think it was a new IP that was really hard, that you couldn't really talk about as much as you wanted to without spoiling it, and where every time you faced a really hard boss, what you were discovering was, get ready to beat this guy 40 times to reach the end.
No, you don't have to redo any bosses.
Do you not?
But yeah, I think you go to different. It's like different biomes.
You
That's
skip
what I was
them.
thinking. Yeah,
You can, but you skip all the bosses.
Okay, I feel like I did not know that because it was a while since I played it. I feel like I repeated some bosses. Maybe I just died at them a lot of times.
I
definitely do that as well.
I think it is you're right. It's a tough sell when you say, hey, I can't tell you anything about this game, but you should really play it. And then the other part is like, it's actually not that hard because you can skip all the bosses and this weapon's really OP. So if you find this weapon, it's actually really easy. Like,
Red
yes,
Lightning one. Yeah,
that is such a tough way to pitch a game to someone. But I think for me, the better pitch is just talking about the story. Just like this is a personal journey about grief that's done in a way that I've never seen before in any medium, in film, game, or anything. And that's why it's so special. And it's fun. Also, it's fun. I think that's an important That's
that
an
was going to
important
be my
thing to
point.
lead
That I feel like I missed the point of Returnal completely because I found the plot just kind of uninteresting, but I loved the
You're a fool.
gameplay.
Well,
I
it
am. Yeah,
surprises
that's
me.
the vibe I'm getting.
Uninteresting
Yeah, it
is
didn't interest.
surprising. If it was like confusing or convoluted or drawn out, I think I would be on board with that. It just surprises me.
Yeah, I can't really remember why because like I've championed Returnal as much as Eric, but for the complete opposite reason, I guess. Like we're still on the same team, but I don't know. I didn't really find Celine.
Maybe don't help me.
No, well, I'm making my point again. Yeah, I just didn't. I'd never really connected with it. I don't know.
All
Maybe
right.
I wasn't super
It's a
paying
blast.
attention.
Go that direction.
It's a blast. It's very good. Play it.
Just an interesting quirk as well that we should probably mention. Both the Forgotten City and Returnal and 12 Minutes and Deathloop, if George had mentioned it but failed to, because he went for Spelunky, and a game that we have not mentioned at all, Loop Hero, all came out in the same year.
Oh,
it was the year of the time loop.
Yes,
Every
the year
month, a new loop.
was, I want to say, is 2022, right?
2021.
2021, which was also pandemic time.
Pandemic,
so
yeah, just out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Mm.
Makes sense. Should we've said Deathloop 20 times. Should we talk about Deathloop?
Sure.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
I like it. I like it enough. I don't know. I don't like to keep being negative because apparently it's that kind of day. But I never saw it as the game of the year, 10 out of 10 that like a lot of people did. But I still really enjoyed it. I thought the way it. I don't think I was a fan of like the ending twist. I think that kind of.
It's not much of a twist at all, really.
Yeah.
I think what's so cool about Deathloop is the one perfect loop. That's what makes it so interesting. It's like putting the puzzle pieces together one run at a time until you can complete that one perfect run. And it holds your hand through that in a way that I was disappointed about. You don't really have to learn anything. You can really just follow quest markers to the conclusion. But I think if that stuff wasn't there, it would have been a much more interesting game.
I agree.
Because ultimately you do have to kill all these people in one day. And even though it tells you exactly how to do that without you having to figure it out yourself,
still cool.
it still does that.
Yeah, and it still plays well. I really liked Colt and Juliana, I think.
Yeah.
They're both fantastic characters. Like I really like that. But I remember thinking, like, is this really the depth of it? Because I can distinctly remember the menu being like, these two people you need to kill will be here today at this time. Go do it. It's like
you did only do that once you, as a character, learned that your character who is a meticulous note taker who wants to escape from the island. Like that is the point of the game, and you can defy those anytime. You can do them in whatever order you want. I'm sure people discovered like alternate ways to line them up. But you're right. It does kind of. I think coming off the back of games like Dishonored, it does kind of go. Here is the correct way to play. You are free to do it the wrong way if you like. But this is how we want you to do it.
But when you get deeper into like the side quests and the Easter eggs and stuff, there's some really clever uses of the loop because in this world, everyone knows they're in a loop.
Yeah.
So it's this bacchanal of debauchery. Nothing matters because no one can die. And the way that's expressed through the little side stories and the characters is really fun. And when you come back to the same areas in different parts of the day, because the loop's kind of weird. It progresses through stages of the day every time you move locations.
Yeah.
So you'll experience different things in the same place depending on what time of the day you're there. But you'll discover little storylines that unfold when you come back to the same area at different times of the day.
That's really the trick of it, isn't it? The specific time you visit an area being the key to the puzzle. It's the sort of game I wish I could erase from my mind and go back and do again. Because the first time playing it is like, wow. But looking back on it I'm a little less like blown away, which is why Spelunky.
Why Spelunky went out and you ruined the 2021 streak.
It's super cool.
Stylish as well.
Yes.
Love it. Yeah. Super cool game with some flaws that are hard for me to look past.
Mm-hmm.
I could have also picked Slay the Princess.
Yeah, that was the one I was between Forgotten City and Slay the
Yeah. Another George miss, unfortunately, but
How's that going, you ask?
we have Gus on it on this show, but in
Yeah.
case you missed that episode, and if you're not a loyal listener, Slay the Princess is a game where a disembodied voice tells you to go into a cabin and kill a princess. And you go in the cabin, and there's a very sweet, angelic girl locked up in the corner, begging for you to free her. And you've got a knife in your hand, and you get to decide what you're going to do about this particular situation. And no matter what you do, you're gonna restart and do it again. And there is a progressive plot. These loops are all connected.
Yeah.
It's all leading to something. But what makes it so cool is that your choices influence subsequent loops. So I guess the way we often describe it is that however you treat the princess, whether you treat her like a monster or treat her like a victim, or like whatever choices you make in one loop will be reflected in who the princess becomes in the next loop. So if you are fearful of this girl and you go in hesitantly, then in the next loop she will be a very scary monster that you should be afraid of. That's sort of the oversimplification of what Slay the Princess does. Do you feel like
and
that's
the
pretty
dungeon does that
accurate?
as well?
Yeah, and the space itself, like you go down to the basement, and the space is different to accommodate whoever the princess becomes.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think my favorite thing about it is the loops feed into each other. So you're right. You go the first time and you act afraid of her, so she's a scary monster. You go the next time, and because she's a scary monster, she's able to overpower you. So the next time you're prepared for it, and then eventually it gets to a point where you've kind of reached the end of, okay, this princess turned into a scary monster, and then eventually I stabbed her in the heart. And then you get kind of a different version of a loop where you meet kind of with all of your decisions and the outcomes of that in this kind of metaphysical area, like space. And then that finishes and you're back at a regular castle. And now you've got to find different ways to slay the princess, or in some cases choose not to, in order to return to that metaphysical space and negotiate your way out of that through a variety of different. There's like, look, I played it a couple of times, like 2 credits, and I haven't seen all of the different iterations of how those metaphysical things can manifest. So I think it's layered in a way that it's not just everything you do will make the princess different. It's every time you do that, you are kind of part of a bigger loop. And I guess instead of it being like one big circle, it's like a circle with lots of circles inside, like a doily or a coaster.
Like a snail shell.
Kind of like a snail shell, yeah, because it spirals inwards, yeah.
You two are going to hate me for this, but every time we talk about this game, my thought is I really need to play this. I know that doesn't help.
You do.
I just don't. But
also, another game that's 3 hours, maybe.
Yeah. That'll be before mouthwashing, I think. I like this. I like sound more.
Stacey's spot on. It's very metaphysical. It's very philosophical, and I think there's a lot of crossover with A Forgotten City. In that it's a small space, a small story that's about really big ideas. And it looks so cool, right? It's like it's all hand drawn, kind of like pencil, scratchy pencil style, but just character design wise, super cool. And one of those game detective games you'll find like the Discord servers and forums of people like really dissecting every little element of it, which is always super fun. Absolutely. I have some other favorites. Have you two played Minute?
I've heard of Minute.
Minute, like MINIT, isn't it?
MINIT, Minute.
Yeah.
The 1 minute time loop. This is like the Game Boy version of the Forgotten City. You've got 1 minute, but you're progressively collecting items and learning things, and and the whole game maybe takes an hour, maybe. no, that's too many. I think 60 loops is too many. It's probably a half hour. 30 loops seems right. But it's really cool. It's very tight. Really clever pixel art time loop game.
It sounds like that would have been a better pick for me than Spelunky.
Probably. The defunct Lemnis Gate, I have to shout out.
Yeah.
This game is dead
Is that
and
also
gone.
2021?
I believe so. Yeah.
I remember you talking about it again, Eric, and I could not understand it for the life of me.
It was 2021 game. While it was the year of the time loop.
Lemnis Gate absolutely ruled, and I'm not surprised at all that it didn't make it because it's so high concept for a PvP shooter.
Mm-hmm.
So like imagine like Counter-Strike, right? You've got two teams, round begins, and you've got to eliminate each other. And then you complete that round, and that round restarts, and the U from the previous round repeats exactly every move you made, every bullet you fired from the first round, but now you're also in the round, right? So let's say you walked into a house and got shot in the head in round 1. That still happens. The past version of you walks into a house and gets shot in the head unless you get there first and shoot that guy and intervene. And then you start the next loop. And so you're building this whole ballet of
when does it end?
Tactile combat.
I understand it more this time.
Just mean when does it end? I think it got shut down, didn't it? It's already
over.
It
already ended.
Listen to me. So God, this is more confusing in 2021. But if I stop the person shooting me in the head, can they just not stop me stopping them?
There's like a set number of rounds,
right?
Okay. And a lot of times you're not just gonna be like, well, before you shoot me, I'll shoot you, and before I shoot you, you'll shoot me. You'll go do a different objective.
Okay.
Like, okay, they're distracted over there. Now I'm gonna go capture A, right?
Well explained. I got it this time a little bit.
Yeah.
More.
That's the idea. And there's a lot of like your kits, like your character's different kits, tie into the time loop thing really well because like you'll have timed explosives, and if you're really smart and you know the path of where a dude's gonna be because it already happened, you can set up a timed explosive over here and go somewhere else, and it's gonna take that dude out.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything's predetermined. You know exactly what's gonna happen. It just keeps looping.
It is very high concept. It's such
a cool game.
Yeah. I think it's one of those where I believe I said this at the time. You need to see it in action.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
it can't be explained
anymore.
Which is the trouble, I guess.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Love that one. Okay, let's keep going. Sexy Brutal.
Sexy Brutal I had on my list as well.
Yeah. Sexy Brutal. Why don't you take this one, Stacey? My mouth's dry.
Sexy Brutal, it's kind of like a detective puzzle game, if I remember correctly. But it's very, very stylish. It reminded me, or I guess not reminded me because I played this first, but if you've played Paradise Killer, it's kind of like if you added a time loop element to that. Extremely colorful, extremely stylish, very kind of that art style that you used to see, I think used to see a lot in games. A lot of color and expression and vibrance that we've kind of lost a little bit. So I really, really like the imagery of Sexy Brutal. I have a lot of fond memories of playing it. And then when I wrote, it was actually the first game I wrote down for time loops. Like, usually I Google the topic and I think, oh yeah, I like that game. This one was like, yeah, Sexy Brutal. And then I was like, it's been so long since I've played it. It's one of those games I have kind of lodged in my memory of. I really enjoyed that. I don't know what I'm going to say about it. Then it was quite easy to pick between Forgotten City and Slay the Princess after that.
Yeah, so it's like isometric, and it is a masquerade party where a bunch of people are killing a bunch of other people, and your job is to figure out where the murders occur and when, and stop them from happening. So there's a clock as part of the loop, like time is moving linearly, and the one perfect run is where you get to and thwart every murder before it happens, by like taking the bullets out of the revolver before the guy goes and gets it, or like distracting someone so they're not in the room when the murder was going to happen. And you just sort of learn the timeline. So it's sort of the opposite of Deathloop
Mm.
in that way.
It's like every level of Obra Dinn at once.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But instead of just recording what happened, you're actually
you have to stop it, yeah.
intervening. Yeah, which is super cool. It's a really cool game. There's another murder mystery time loop. I think it's called Overboard.
Yeah.
That I played where you are stop.
That's the people who made Highland Song. I can't remember the name.
I think it's called Overboard, but you're on a cruise ship. It's a murder mystery on a cruise ship.
Oh my! It's a 2021 game.
Wow. Yeah.
Inglet is the people who made Highland Song. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I liked Overboard a lot. It has some good twists, some unexpected directions. And which is what twist means. Of course, Majora's Mask.
Yeah, I am surprised it didn't come up, but I don't really care for Zelda, so I wasn't going to mention it.
I'm too young.
Yeah, the thing is, this is like a really, really important one that none of us have a super strong connection to. I think there is something to be said about the economics of Majora's Mask because it was made quickly, reusing a lot of the work that had been done on Ocarina of Time, right? And making it a time loop game is really interesting because it's sort of the precursor to the roguelike boom. Of course, like Rogue itself is older than Majora's Mask, but this idea of we can save a lot of money by reusing content and a roguelike is the perfect way to do that. I think that's exactly what Majora's Mask was, with the like exceptional creativity of Nintendo on top of it, right?
And I think as well for a lot of people, again, I'm not really one of them, but a lot of people consider Majora's Mask to be superior. I know you don't hear that as much, but you know, to take the assets of that and then do something so creative with it, it sticks with people more. I think it's really interesting.
Yes, yeah, I definitely know people that prefer it. It's cool.
No
it's
Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii is what I say.
It is bold to take
it is.
Ocarina of Time and then be like, now let's do a time loop game. That's pretty bold.
Pieces and put it back together.
Yeah, and like a year and a half later or whatever it was, right? Like, yeah, we're not in that era of games anymore. That's for sure. Outer Wilds.
Yeah, the obvious one.
One of the most beloved time loop games.
It makes me feel very sick, so I can't play it.
Really? Like flying in the spaceship?
Yeah, I've tried so many times. Just queasiness.
And you don't like VR either, so I wonder if it's a thing.
Weak stomach.
Interesting. I like that it's another like the loop ends when the world ends. This one is inevitable. It's not like Forgotten City where something happens to make the world end. It's there. You have a set amount of time, and then the universe explodes. And I like the execution of that. It's also because it's a space system, a solar system that you're exploring. It makes it really easy to like follow a thread until you hit a wall and then go a different direction. You know, it makes it feel really non-linear. It feels like the most non-linear time loop game that we've talked about. Because everybody's going to explore it in different ways. You know, everybody's going to have a different way that they tackle this.
I think you could argue it's the most mechanically clever of all the ones we've discussed. I know we've discussed a lot of games. I know that's a really high praise, but I think a lot of them go in for narrative quirks or kind of ways to make the story feel resonant to a time loop. I think the Outer Wilds is the one that really plays with how do you actually play this game? How does playing the game function differently, knowing the impending doom and the time loop aspect of it and those sorts of things? I think it's not the biggest game, but maybe one of the boldest in how it does a bunch of different things.
Yeah. And cool lore. And really, it's just a game where you are learning the lore of this world.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool. I like that stuff. Boy, we're running up on time, and I had a lot more. So let me kind of lightning round some of these. Zero Escape Trilogy. George, you like these, don't you? No?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. The first one is 999, 9 hours, 9 people, 9 something. These are visual novels, and I'm not a big visual novel guy, but I really like these games. They're like it's like Saw. That I think that's the best way to explain it. It's like the visual novel version of Saw, but it's a time loop, and you're stuck in the torture chamber endlessly until you figure out who the killer is. That's what
I mean,
Zero,
that pitch makes me
Zero
want to
Escape
play
is.
it.
Yeah,
It's
I
really
think that-
cool.
yeah.
It's super duper cool, and the actual gameplay is sort of like point and click adventure, like find the hidden object
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But it's the narrative that's so good. Really cool horror visual novels. Really well done. We talked about Loop Hero. That had a moment, and I thought that was going to be like a big phenomenon, and it wasn't. I thought that was going to be like a Balatro.
Yeah.
Because it's really like tight and like Moorish. Like it's just when you're in Loop Hero, you're like stuck in Loop Hero. It's hard to put that game down. But then everybody put it down. So what do I know?
It came 10th in the Gamers Game of the Year list for 2021. I do know that.
Yeah, it's
it was
good.
A tie for 10th.
Two more quickly. No One Has to Die. Do either of you know No One Has to Die?
This came up when I was searching games that I always do for the
Oh,
talk.
okay.
I was unfamiliar with it.
I've not heard of this.
This game's really cool. This is a very indie game. The presentation of it doesn't look like much. It's a grid based, and it's like turn based. Like you make a move and then everything else moves in the world. And the idea is there's a building that's on fire, and the fire's spreading. And as you move through it, the fire spreads more, and you have to save someone. You can't save everyone because the fire's spreading. And every time you save someone, the story progresses because all of you and all 4 of the people in the building are in this time loop together. So all 5 of you remember each loop. And every time you save someone, you learn more about what's happening here, who these people are, blah, blah, blah. And once you have figured out the puzzle to save each one individually, then No One Has to Die.
No One Has to Die.
You know how to save everyone. Really cool. Super short, but just really well written. Super cool game that I don't think a lot of people know about. Highly recommend. And then the last one, a bit of a joke. Groundhog Day, Like Father, Like Son. The VR Groundhog Day game. We couldn't do Time Loop without mentioning. I reviewed this game for The Gamer.
Wow.
And in fact, they sent me a PSVR headset to review this game. That's how much Sony wanted Groundhog Day, Like Father, Like Son reviewed. And it is cute. It is about Bill Murray's son who inadvertently ends up in a time loop. It's very mini game based, which is surprising. There's like pipe puzzles where you got to pick up little sections of pipes and turn them. There's a dancing, like you got a rhythm game dancing section. Sure. There's a part where you have to hold the controller sideways and do the spray paint thing, which I think Spider-Man did afterwards.
Infamous Second Son did it.
Oh, Infamous did it first. That's right. Anyway, I'm not going to recommend Groundhog Day VR on the PSVR 1 necessarily, but I did have fun with it. I think I'm good. Stanley Parable. We've talked about a lot before. And we're running up on time. Do you guys have any? Sorry, I talked so much this week, but this episode was for me after all, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I'm claiming this one.
I don't have any more. I had a couple of reverse time ones count, but I don't really think they do. So
were you going to say Life is Strange, Stace?
It was on me. I wouldn't have mentioned it for this. I don't think it fully fits the theme, but yes, it's something of a loop, but it's not really a time loop.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Prince of Persia Rewind time.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
I was going to be cheeky and say Silent Hill 2 remake because it is a time loop, as confirmed by an Easter egg.
As confirmed,
yeah, that didn't feel super. Maybe it was a smart choice than my actual choice.
It's only a time loop if you find an Easter egg.
No, but it tells you that
what's the thing that there's a thing.
There's all these Polaroids, and it's like, James, you've been here for 20 years. And that's just confirmation he never left
There,
Silent
there
Hill.
is a whole where does it go? It's
Mm.
something like that. That it's
Yeah.
it's I can't remember
Oh
what it
yeah,
is.
of course, yeah. It's
Oh,
it's
so
a whole
is it
thing.
is it like a sequel to the original Silent Hill 2 then in that way?
Yeah, you can view it like that. This is the thing. If you
It's like
Gotcha.
connecting a fan theory of the original game, but making it its
Mm.
only canon in the remake.
yeah, I mean, like
Gotcha.
there's dead bodies of James lying around in the original game, and there kind of is in the remake, a bit
Gotcha.
more subtle.
Like
But
like Final Fantasy 7 remake,
yeah,
Something like
you can
that.
kind of view it like that.
kind
Yeah,
of a time loop.
this is the thing. It's cute. It's a nice little
Yeah.
nod. I think it is very interesting, but it's no Spelunky. I tell
That's
you.
cool. I
There,
didn't know
there was
that.
a hole here. It's gone now. Is what the
Yeah.
big Easter egg was.
On the
I will
Discord
get to that one once George plays mouthwashing.
deal.
Thank you, everybody. What a great show. That's it for this week's episode of Your Favorite Game. We'll be back next week with another one. Those are our favorite games with time loops. Please let us know your favorite games with time loops as well. Leave us a comment down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and visit us at thegamer.com. That's The Gamer, no spaces.